And welcome back to Miniature Dragon Comic Review, coming to you live from Seattle, Washington. As always, I'm your host, Daniel Doc Gentry, and with me are both of our gurus. Today are Woody and Alex. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey,
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
I'm in my room today. I have better internet.
The attempts on the carjacking have failed.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I survived our attempt to do live action GTA.
But there's still a chance that his car's getting jacked, just he's not in it.
Well, look, to my knowledge, we've only had one murder in this complex in the whole time I've been here.
Yeah, they just didn't tell you about the rest of them.
Well, we had a house fire one block over. Took out 5 houses. So
Did it really?
yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, that was a couple of months ago.
Wow, way to clear out.
Yeah, way to bring down the room. Hey, we have some comic. Oh, hey, Alex! Oh my God, you've got a Nintendo in there. You better be collecting fees from Nintendo. We need to get the show started.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah. Actually,
Hey, Woody, you have some like riffs and some other role-playing stuff. You
Yeah,
should
but-
be getting Robotech rights.
yeah, but Platinum is not going to sue me. Nintendo may.
Okay. Hey, they can't. I've got the pictures cropped, so don't worry about what you think you can see.
Okay, good.
Why don't we just jump right into the first one, because we all had such positive things to say about it,
Yes.
and that, of course, will be Fearscape.
Okay, so the hilarity of this is the reason why I checked out that comic was because when I first skimmed past it on the list, I thought it said Farscape. And I thought, oh my God, is Farscape back in comic book form again? And then I looked at it, it's like, oh, that's not it. But then, it got my interest up just enough to try it out. And, we can't only review comics we like. In this one, the premise is you basically have this writer who is a complete hack and a douchebag and an arrogant son of a bitch and has no problem stealing from other people and basically just can't do his job right. And in the process of stealing somebody's manuscript so he can put his name on it, because he's holding it, gets inadvertently selected by the powers that be to become the great champion of our age to destroy a dream monster. And he's not the right guy for that job. He's completely this guy is one of those assholes that basically runs around accusing everybody of the stuff he does. I effing hate this book so much, which I will elaborate on shortly. But gentlemen, what do you guys think? Alex, since Doc's walking away, the book's so bad he can't.
So, for me, so the book starts with just a full page of just dialogue, and
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get into
it
that.
was definitely kind of it was definitely different, and it didn't really engage me at first. So it was definitely one of those things of like, as art style wise, I did like it. It felt like a sketchbook. It felt like, something that was like the person was had a very organic kind of look.
Mhm.
The art wasn't too bad. For this type of story or something that might have been like from, say, Dark Horse or Vertigo, I think this like artist really did something that would have like worked for that type of storylines, those type of kind of stories where it's mystery or horror or kind of dark fantasy.
Mhm.
But as this went, there were some parts where it just story wise just kind of fell apart. Though one of the things that was kind of interesting was like how you said of you got this writer and he's telling the story about like how fears and the real world are kind of connected.
Yeah.
And there was a certain point where like I kind of got over the book when I just stopped taking it serious. When
Yeah.
basically they stopped like so during part of it, certain characters like the villain and certain other parts were retracted from the actual artwork.
That was
And it
actually
had
hilarious.
a blurb of information about like what you're not seeing. And during
That was
part of
great.
it, I found that so hilarious, like almost kind of this fourth wall kind of like, okay, we're not going to reveal the villain until the next episode kind of thing. And by that end, it's like I kind of warmed up to it because I just found it like, I can't take this serious. I thought it was just so hilarious. I thought, it was kind of a fun story.
Yeah.
But like at the very beginning, I just thought, oh God, I am going to read this and just be bored to tears and not enjoy this at all. But by the end, I thought like, okay, this is at least funny to me.
Hey Doc, what do you think?
All right, so I hit my normal 3.
Yeah.
Overall, I'm not a big fan. I just want to set that out there. But there was some very unique things about this. The art in it was unexpected. I think Alex hit it on the head. It really did look like somebody just finished up some stuff in their sketchbook and put it into the comics. But it didn't have an overall feel of bad art at all. And I'm not saying I enjoyed the art immensely, but it reminded me of old school comic books or old school comic strips, excuse me, the way they did it, like a Dick Tracy almost.
Like some of those old horror ones with Tales from the Crypt.
Or those too, but it really did. It had a Dick Tracy feel to it. The lettering, whoever wrote it needs to go back to take some English classes because I found a lot of grammatical errors, and the problem with that with me is I'm not that inclined on grammatical stuff, but I found them. So
and that's probably the funniest thing about this because they're supposed to have a writer who's narrating this that is supposed to be like believes that he is the best. So like it's either unintentionally ironic or that was done on purpose, because I'm also looking at it right now, skimming through the pages, and he's talking this thing about the problem with structure, and like every single page has like, all the gutters are randomly spaced,
right,
which has to be done on purpose because that's kind of a no-no.
Here's my thing though. I would have enjoyed the story. The story. Let's get to the story part of it. The story actually does have. It's a mixture of cliches, but it creates a new, different thing. And
yeah, no, it's cool.
And it would have been so enjoyable if it was done. I don't know, right? And first off, they start off just by insulting everybody who's reading comic books, calling everybody casual. If you don't like this, you're casual. Is basically what it says.
You know what's also looking at? Like the letterer is really bad, but I think that also might be done intentional as part of the irony of the book.
It might have, and it does. I mean, this is a long con that doesn't.
I'll be right back.
Just mute your button. We had to teach Woody about mute.
Molly's freaking out. I'm getting dog jacked.
Yeah, doggies, stupid dogs.
No, dog's not stupid.
I have 3, and you can't hear them. I'm just saying. You used to. You can from time to time. My thing about this is this feels like a long con comic book, and the con the con itself doesn't pay off, and the con being that it's supposed to be totally ironic, every little bit of it.
Yeah. No.
And it just doesn't have the payout that you would expect it to have going for the long distance con on this. So I mean that's what I feel about it. But overall, story I thought was amazing. I'm super sad that this is the way they decided to present the story.
Can I jump in on something?
Yeah, I was just giving my opinion like you told me to.
Okay. Well, no, I wanted to add to what you were saying, actually.
No, I'm cool. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah, because it seems like a good segue. Because, like, see, for me, the big problem with this book is right off the bat, you basically have this full page of the most blowhard bullshit you've ever heard, right? And it's done deliberately to emulate the Watchmen, and he basically calls out the Watchmen as bullshit. So, like, at the beginning of the story, you have this elitist, blowhard, whatever that it's being presented, and it's essentially taking the gold standard of comics and calling it's saying that it's gutter trash, and it's presented in a way where, since you don't know that this is the narration of the main character, in fact, you don't even really realize that you've got the main character is the narrator until like page 3 or 4. Like you basically are left with the impression that this is what the author of the book thinks. And you are basically set up to hate the book before you've even seen even one page of art. And I'm immediately set up to have a bias. And you're reading through, and you have, and it doesn't get better. Like you have this main character who's completely unlikable. And I agree with you, Doc. The story is really cool, but the presentation is so like you there's no way to relate to this character. There's nothing likable about him, and you can't root for him. And you basically have a situation where like the story would have been more compelling if the character was more mysterious. If you like, the advantage to comic books is you have access to the character's inner monologue, and yet they don't even use that right in the story. Like the inner monologue is used to break the story down, not to improve it.
Right, and it doesn't even feel like the breaks in between inner monologues. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just throw it in there to break up the story a little bit, the transition.
Yeah, you basically have this unspoken contract between the reader and the writer that establishes the illusion of the world. So you have your suspension of disbelief, and you're along for the ride, and everything about the story breaks your suspension of disbelief.
Yeah,
and breaks that contract to agree to enjoy the book.
Yeah, and again, it's like I said, great story, bad lettering, whether it's on purpose or not, it threw me off.
Yeah.
I get the irony. I get the long call. I'm going to call it the long con of it, and the irony. But I didn't enjoy it. It doesn't mean that somebody out there didn't. And I find irony hilarious. You guys know me, and interesting, and I love irony. But the irony of this is irony upon irony upon irony upon irony. And again, like I tell people, if you satire the satire, it's not humorous. So,
and that's what he's doing. The irony on the irony fails. This completely does not work.
Alex, you got any final thoughts before we flip over to the other one?
So, concept-wise, I thought there was some interesting parts, like going into the fearscape, like how
Dream Realm,
whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just adding to it. Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. Because it really needs to be corrected. So the fearscape or whatever, like the part that I thought was interesting was this muse taking this guy in and showing that like how writers actually affect the real world. I thought that was an interesting concept. Like that I felt like was an interesting part of like how there was a historical moment for somebody that might actually enjoy this book. I don't want to spoil for them, but like there was a historical moment, and the fear that was within that time period was changed because the writer changed how the manifestation in the fearscape, how that creature was, and it affected the real world. I thought that was an interesting concept. The concepts within it, there was some interesting parts. The story, the narration, the way that certain parts did very much fall flat. But I think it was like a place of creativity. Like once I stopped, like I said before, once I stopped taking it serious, I liked some of the parts of like, oh, we're not going to see the villain until the next chapter. I thought that was kind of one of those like, okay, that's funny and kind of very tropey, but still, to like, make it very in your face about it, opposed to the classic part of storytelling or comics or even television where the villain is in the shadows and you don't see him, but here's the villain in white, whited out, and the typography says we're not showing him. I thought that was just hilarious, and
that was brilliant.
Yeah, I thought that was that was a brilliant part, and it's like, for somebody, this book, like you say, Doc, this is definitely for somebody. I don't think for the three of us necessarily, but I don't have like such a major hate on it.
I'm just weirded
I thought
out.
it was just it was all right. it wasn't something that I feel like I'm going to keep going with, but
I agree. I was just weirded out because Keenan agreed with me, and that's not a big.
I know. Well,
I think the book reads like somebody that had a definite vision, and he won't hold to his vision, but it was definitely. God damn it, Willie! It was definitely his sophomore effort. Like it reads like somebody's first comic book, but they got somebody who knows what they're doing to present it from an artistic standpoint. But it's like the guy had a vision, he held to his vision, and that's admirable, but he doesn't understand what he's doing. And therefore, the book is suffering for that fact.
I can see that. All right, well, let's jump into Stranger Things #1.
Awesome. Yes. Stranger Things. Okay, so this one's kind of a no-brainer. It's Stranger Things. But what the premise of it is they wanted to do a comic book which basically tells the story of what happened to Will Byers while he was in the Upside Down. And that's basically all there is to it. It's an interesting in that it's kind of like on the category of a book that nobody asked for, that nobody wanted, but everybody that likes the show is probably going to read it. It's kind of like, with Solo or Rogue One. It's like, we love those movies, or at least I did. Nobody would have asked for them, but I thought they were great. But in this case, I'm not sure what to make of it yet, because like the first issue basically essentially just gives you the first few hours of his time in the Upside Down and ends on a cliffhanger. And
well, I think it's kind of one of those. It's good for somebody that doesn't know that universe and wants to get into it without going into too much explanation of like, hey, here's the show recap.
Yeah, and for me, the thing which is interesting about this story is that, one, I would like to read it, because I mean, is there a story there, right? Because like we know what the Upside Down is. We've seen it a couple times now in the series. There aren't a huge, there are some mysteries there that need to be answered, and I don't think this comic book's going to be answering them, but you basically got a story which probably, from what we understand from the show, is probably going to only fill 1.5 comic books. So this is most likely going to be a 4-issue mini, maybe 5 issues. What are they going to do with it that's going to stretch the story out? And is it a meaningful thing that adds to the mythology, or is it just going to be a cash grab? And I'm not sure which one it's going to be. It hasn't added to the mythology so far significantly, but I did find it a fun and interesting read, but only from the standpoint of having been a fan of the show. I'm not sure that it's a good entry point to the show from what I saw. What do you guys say?
I say I'm sick and tired of anybody rolling a D20 when they cast Fireball, and I don't care if it's for the show or not. Do your homework. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe in this alternate universe, that's how D&D spawned forth.
It could be, and way to cover for him, Alex. It's just one of those. You know when you know about things, and then somebody tries to introduce it somewhere else, and they get it wrong. It's just one of those things, especially something like D&D, which near and dear to my heart.
They are playing the Red Box, so it might be. I don't remember, but it might have been different back then.
It was not.
Okay, all right.
It actually may have. I mean, we've been through 5 iterations, but I was just kidding around. I want to throw that joke in there because it was the joke I made when I saw Stranger Things, the original. So
well, if you're gonna nitpick, you want to know what I noticed on the TV show that bothered me.
What was that
about D&D? The plastic miniatures.
Right. No, I did. I noticed it, but I figured, quality studio stuff. It is what it is.
Yeah, no, nobody's gonna okay, you can spend $5 per miniature, or you can spend $20 or $30 per miniature. What's it gonna be?
Or it's not 1980. It's Canada in 2018, and the 1980s just got there. Did you think about that one?
Ooh, I did not. So they only just got the Ghostbusters. What you're saying?
I'm kidding, Canada. I love you.
Canada.
This comic book, I like the premise of it. I'd really like to go forward. Right now, where the comic book is, I'm not totally connected to it. Not like I was the original story.
Yeah.
Though I do like the whole extra in between.
Yeah.
What happened here while the rest of the story was going on.
Absolutely.
It definitely is a really unique story, and I might not just be caught on. or I might not. I might not be a good person to do this because I have to be caught onto something to go forward with it. And this just didn't grab me, which is, it could just be a paneling thing. Like the second issue is where that little thing is that grabs you and makes you want to read more and find out that little unknown. But I do know about the world that they're talking about, and that the Demigorgon really isn't the Demigorgon as well. I mean, we can get into that. But anyways, it's the tabletop in me, but I do like it. And it's funny because even though they got the things wrong on the show, I enjoyed the show as well. And the comic book reminded me of the show a little bit. It's just a part of the show that I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to see this part. Like, I thought it would be interesting, but it hasn't grabbed me yet. I might just be
it's not something that we needed to see. You know, the other thing I'm kind of scrolling through right now, and it's also, there's a point where the artist is oddly inconsistent. Like, there's times when the characters are kind of pretty on point, and then there's times where it's like they're not, right? And my suspicion is you basically got a guy working on a deadline trying to get these pages done, and you know, like, you're trying to draw real people, and I think he would have been better served drawing interpretations of the people, and just find somebody that's just a solid artist. And it's like, you know, like, the budgets on these sorts of books I think are pretty tight, you know, and they have to, you know, like, they probably don't have as much money to spend because it's Marvel and DC just do not do these things anymore.
Yeah,
you know, like,
now that you mentioned, I was gonna say that it was like at some parts it looked like the artist from Batman Damned was working on it, and on other parts it looked like Gaslight.
Well, I think you're being generous in both categories, but yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, I see your point. Considering Gaslight had the first part had the Hellboy guy. Though I do find it interesting that in the story, like, initially he thinks he's on Earth, and yet, you know, there's all this shit there, like the vines growing everywhere and the air is foul, you know, and it takes him a while to realize what's really going on. And I don't know about you, but I think if I find myself in this situation, you know, my first question is this a hell of a prank, guys? But then once you see all the stuff floating through the air, which, you know, obviously they can't draw that because that's too much. But it's like, you know, to be stuck in that world, I mean, I'd be like, oh my God. Like, you'd know pretty fast if you're not on Earth, I think, if you were in this kind of condition.
I don't know, that Jaws poster was very convincing.
Well, this is a parallel universe. Like, everything from our world is there except the people.
In the theory of multiverse, which is where parallel universes come from, there are distinct differences. And I want to say the Demigorgon's running around and there's vines growing out. Chances of Jaws being made is slim to none.
Well, it depends when it happened. But
in the 1980s.
Well, the thing is this could also be an echo of our world, like kind of like a dreamscape or something where, like, it's just another layer of reality and there's a creature inhabiting it.
These two books are linked.
Yes. Oh my God. It's as if I had a theme when I picked them that I didn't have.
It was Farscape and
Fearscape.
Stranger Things, and now it was Fearscape, and you were like, oh crap, I didn't see how they're gonna bring the puppets to life in a comic book. Now I'm mad.
Yeah, right. Farscape was awesome, but it did not work as a comic book.
The art in this at certain points, especially at the beginning, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy, especially the alternate universe. I thought it was really well done. For not being like an all-out, just a rendition, even though it did look at some parts like the background and the people don't really match up in some points. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but it almost looked like a paper cutout put onto a page instead of something drawn into the area.
What I find interesting, let me try that again. What I find interesting about these guys, when they get these artists, they always they knock it out of the park on the monsters, you know, or like Darth Vader looks amazing, even though the rest of it doesn't. You know, it's like the iconic things. They look great. It's just they always get these people that can't draw the people so well, or can't do it consistently. They're just good enough.
Well, and I dabble in art. I do it as a stress reliever. I would never think about doing it professionally. So I wouldn't even be able to tell you when somebody's drawing this, or they could draw this, or does it take somebody different to be able to draw a monster than it does for somebody to draw a live person? I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Do you guys? I mean, honestly, it's it's an honest question.
Well, I'm looking at this picture of Will, and he almost looks like Krillin. Like it's like the nose is so weirdly drawn that he might as well not even have it. Alex, what are you thinking? I assume you've seen the show, right?
Yeah. So I would definitely have to say as like as for the art, my general thought is like whoever probably did this was going off of references, like taking a look at the characters, and like a great example would be like taking a look at two different pictures from two different poses and trying to like merge them together to get like an effect, and then finding out that you have to erase and redo it.
Yeah.
But Alex, in your opinion, is it like somebody who's really, and I mean mastered drawing non-humanoid things, is it harder for them to do humanoid? Is there like a specialty when you're drawing, or is it like if you got it overall? Because I never feel like that's the thing. I always feel like it's one or the other, never both.
For me, I mean, I feel like I have to put in skill points, so to speak, when I want to do something that actually looks photorealistic and not out of my imagination. And there's times where it feels like I roll a natural 20 on that fireball of art. And then there's a lot of times where it's like, I'm just going to take a 2.
It's funny too, because like, I don't know that there's actually a right answer or wrong answer to that question, Doc. Because if you look at me and Alex, as artists, we're both completely different artists with a different style and a different approach. And when I do it, I can basically beat Alex every day on realism. But if I had to draw it out of my head, I don't even stand a chance. Like I've watched Alex pull the craziest, most surrealist, horrific things out of his mind, and I could never draw that. I'd have to look at it first. Like I would need a reference, and so I don't know how to. Like I don't know that there is an answer to the question you're asking. I mean, but like the comic book artist is generally a disciplined artist that's got a combination of both of what both of us do, and some of them are better than others. Too. Yeah, but
I mean, in general, it's like for most artists, you need to have like those skills and discipline of knowing how human anatomy is. And I mean, even with monsters and such, there is a fine level of like, I've done studies of various animals and other type of organisms and such. And that helps me basically take my total recall and go, okay, this part plus this can equal this like Cthulhuoid monster or something from D&D. Knowing how the basic shapes work helps integrate it together. And then some of it is just using the same thing as like graphic design, breaking down certain shapes into this type of language. When something is this type of like point to it, it's sharp. When it has something very circular to it, it's generally soft or might be very smooth. And, that translates within a picture of a creature. Like the creature here, it has some liberties in comparison to what was done in the show. Because if you do take a look, there's a very similar feel. Like, yes, it looks like from the show, but at the same time, it's not as accurate as what the show's monster is.
Well, the show has a guy in a suit as well as CGI in the drawing from like the master references, and this guy probably didn't have those references. He just probably had the show and had to do his best.
I think it's just a question that maybe when I'm wandering around EC3, I can just start asking random artists. I would love to know, because I don't know. Like, I know that I can draw nature things and I can do human. Like, hands is my big thing, and I'm really good at facial structures. But, like, if I had to draw a monster, I think it would be difficult for me. But that's because I've never really got into that. I sketch. So it's just one of those things. Yeah, we're running out of time here, so why don't we get into final thoughts from our last books? Alex, what'd you think?
So, Fearscape, I'm going to say that if you don't take it too serious and you want something that's a little different of a story, this might be up your alley. Personally, I don't think of it as a great story. The art is not too bad, but as the Stranger Things goes, if you watch the Netflix series, I think this might be at least enjoyable to take a look, see what happens to the rest of Will's story. But as like not watching it, going in completely blind, and just picking it up as a comic book, it may not be your thing. You know, it's got not too bad art, but like the connection and the full enjoyment that you're probably going to get is probably not going to be there unless you know kind of like the rest of the story.
Okay, I didn't get my normal weird 5 out of 5 from you. Woody, what'd you think?
Well, I think that Fearscape is definitely a 1 out of 5. It's a story with nothing but potential, and it never realizes any of it. And you have an unlikable protagonist, and there's nothing about the story to make you want to keep reading. Like it's just a lot of promise and no delivery. As far as Stranger Things, I would do a 3 out of 5. I mean, like I'm totally with Alex. Do not pick this book up if you've never seen the show. But if you have seen the show and you want to know what happened to Will Byers, I mean, absolutely. I'm probably going to pick up the whole series just because I'm really curious to see how they can take this story and stretch it out. And are they just stretching it, or are they actually giving you a meaningful story? Because I will say the first issue felt stretched, and I'm super curious to see if they can actually deliver. So I'm definitely gonna keep reading, you know. But I definitely would give it a 3 out of 5.
Vault Comics, I would say, get into Fearscape, rip it apart, and make a comic book out of the good things. Because there were so many things in there that if a comic book was written for that, like just those premises and those ideas, I think I would enjoy it immensely. I'm not even kidding. It was there were certain parts of this comic book where I really enjoyed myself, and then they mess it up again, and then I enjoy myself again, and then they mess it up again, and I was
pretty
like,
much
man,
every time he opens his mouth.
I was enjoying parts, and then yes, when definitely the narrator got involved, it totally ruined everything for me.
Yeah,
and it was funny to me because I really was enjoying it, and I don't know, it was just really weird. Stranger Things, I agree. If you haven't seen the series, don't read this, cause at least this comic book, I can tell you right now. But Isaiah, if your curiosity is piqued, what happened? Why did it end the way it did? I think this would probably be a good series, a miniseries to follow up with. There were some questions that they never answered in the show about Will and his experiences that I think might be answered here. The thing is, I'm just not the kind of person that worries about that kind of stuff too much. So that's probably what they're thinking is going to catch people into this, but the story itself didn't catch me. It doesn't mean it's not a great story. I enjoyed it, but I don't feel like I need to go further with it. So,
well, you know, it was the mystery of Will Byers that really was at the center of what made the show success and what made you want to watch season 2. And this basically dismantles that mystery, and I think it possibly should have been left as a mystery to help keep the interest going and to keep you drawn in for season 3. And if this shatters that mystery, then it should never exist.
So, anyways, go to Miniature Dragon. Wait, what's the? Did you actually figure out how to change the site, or?
No, because you need to give me the IP address stuff that I asked for. So none of our web addresses work currently. But if you do go to let me see here, what do we have? miniaturedragon.squarespace.com. You can see all of our stuff.
Okay, and I will get all that IP stuff. I thought I did that, but anyways, I will straighten that out. Read more comics. Keep it nerdy.
Yeah. Oh, and we are going to be at Emerald City Comic Con.
Yeah.
In booth 1812. Unless they move us.
We'll let you know when it gets closer because there's still what 6 months, 5 months, something like that.
4, 5, 4 or 5.
March is not 4 or 5. It's 3
Well,
months in. It's 2
November,
months
December, January, February, March.
in. 5 or 6. We're good.
Okay.
Keep it nerdy and live your
disagree.
dreams.
Okay.
Gosh, I thought I got those IP addresses for you. I will look at it right now.
I mean, I haven't got an email or anything from you.
I
so.
thought I did, but again, I had a million things, and it's on me.
It is okay.
It is not.
Well, so you want to how I built the buttons?
No, I don't even want to hear about buttons.
But I gave it navigation buttons so we can navigate between chapters, even on page 1. On the main page.
You just had to do a menu, a nice, sleek, beautiful, laid out menu with no buttons.
Yeah, well, you need to be able to navigate between chapters.
Yes, I'm not knocking that. I actually agree with you 100%.
But do you want to know how I did it?
It probably has the add buttons thing. I didn't look.
No, you can't add buttons to a gallery.
So you added images?
No, but you can turn a picture into a clickable object.
All right.
So I created a picture that was a clickable object, and it sends you back and forth between pages. It's awesome.
Okay, so the main page is... Oh, I figured. Okay, so if you go to the cogwheel on the right of any of the pages,
yes,
it tells you the URL slug. So it's always going to be miniature dragon dot. Actually, I think it's miniature dragons dot squarespace.com, and then the main page is /main.
Yeah.
And then I just have to go by one by one. Cyber Symbiosis is /Cyber Symbiosis. I made that real hard. I bet you I did the same thing with Countermay. Oh, it's because Countermay is Countermay book for some reason, but let me change that.
Oh wait, don't change it.
Don't change it?
No, because I've been going through messing with that stuff, and I'm setting up the buttons, and I'm making it all consistent. Like, let me worry about that.
I don't. So the whole page should just be Countermay. It should not say Countermay Book 1. It should be Countermay.
Well, it'll be Countermay Chapter 1 because there's a second chapter coming.
I mean, okay. Here's my thing. Do whatever you want, but that's where it is. And
well,
I mean, what you're going to do is you're just going to expand, and then you're going to have this website that's almost not easy to jump through, and people do not have the same they don't have the nature that we have, so they just give up and go away if they have a hard time going through it.
Well, there won't be. Like, what we need is we need a main page with the chapter list so you can jump between chapters, and then you need the ability to read the chapter, and if you are totally sucked in, you click to the next one. Like, you need to be able to navigate between the chapters so you can find what you want.
Well, I agree with that. I'm not okay.
And that's
all right. I won't
right
change
now,
it. So Countermay is Countermay Book 1, and Thunderfrog is Thunderfrog. So the only one that looks like it's different is Countermay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not like getting unnecessarily complicated. I'm just at.
It sounds like you're going to have a Cyber Symbiosis Book 1, a Cyber Symbiosis Book 2, a Cyber Symbiosis Book 3, and then your main navigation in the admin function is going to look like a Excel workbook spreadsheet, except you can't right click to catch the page. You're literally going to have to scroll through it all. So don't make that's what I'm saying, don't make a big mess.
Well, I'm not making a mess. I'm I have a button that says read chapter 1 and then read chapter 2 and
I'm
so
not
forth.
looking at that. I'm looking at main navigation and admin functions. I don't care about the pages themselves. I'm not looking at that.
Okay, well, then I may not know what you're talking about because
So-
I've only been worrying about the pages and
When you're in there on the
Set-
left
setting.
hand, if on the left hand side, it gives you main navigation and non-linked. Those are the actual two right now. And I see you've been
Oh, yeah.
doing the non-linked because there's a ton of pages down there. So each one
yeah,
of
'cause
those
I-
is a brand new page. When you introduce them into the main navigation, it's going to take your main navigation, it's going to drag it out, and it's going to be a super long list in your main navigation. So what you're
right,
doing is
I don't know how to link them.
what I'm saying is I don't know you. Linking, just drag them up. It'll put them right into main navigation, put them whatever order you want them in. And then that top menu bar that I have nice and clean in the top left-hand side is going to link every single page that you put on there. And it will be too big to navigate.
I'm afraid I'm not really following you, Doc. Like you have an understanding of this that I don't have. I'm
Okay.
not sure what you mean by it's too big to
Do
navigate.
you have it up?
I'm looking at it right now,
Okay. So
but I don't understand the too big to navigate thing.
again, I want to explain it, but stop. Don't get into that. Come back to the very beginning. Let's start at the beginning. You have the main navigation not linked on the left-hand side, correct? And then there's a page in the big black box, and on the top left-hand corner of that page, it says main behind the art, Semper Symbiosis, Countermate Thunder Frog. On the right-hand side, it says a miniature dragon. Okay.
Yeah.
Any of those pages you drag from not linked to main navigation will change that main behind the art, Cyber Symbiosis. It'll now read main behind the ant, Cyber Symbiosis, Gamers Alteration C2, Gamers Alteration C1, Thunder Frog Chapter 6, Thunder Trog, and it will be a long, giant thing that won't even fit in there and will push the page.
Then I won't do that.
Okay. That's what I mean about clogging the system. So what you need to do is we need to start with the single page like we have. And then we have to move that like the main page is. I'm still learning how to do that portion of it.
Okay. Well,
And then link it
Why-
into the main page as each individual page, but they will not be... So you won't have to have a new thing. You just have to use, like as an example, just looking at Gamer Alterations. So we have to make one for Gamer Alterations. And then we can link those into the Gamer Alteration one with... I don't know how you want to do this. I see you're doing chapters instead of issues.
that's what I've been calling those chapters.
Okay, but what do we want the people to call it? Because the front page says issue 1.
Yeah. Where does it say issue?
Well, I'm looking at Countermate right now. It says issue 1. I can go to Cyber Symbiosis 1 and look at the main page and see if it says 1 as well.
Right now it just says Countermate.
No, your first page... Okay, I think we're getting confused because I'm using pages in two different terms. I'm talking about the issue itself. The front page of the issue itself says issue 1.
Oh, that's true.
Okay.
I see the point you're making. That is a valid point. Okay. Well,
So I would, and this is just my give to this, is I would name the page what you want them to call it, which would be Gamers Alteration 1, Gamers Alteration 2, like you would with a comic book. Anything else than that would kind of be confusing.
well, let me see here. Yeah, okay. But that's fine. I can do that.
And then let me try something while you have these Thunder Frog things here. Let me see if...
Huh. That's interesting. Wait, are you doing stuff to the website? Because it just suddenly changed.
I haven't changed the website. I didn't save anything. I'm just
Oh,
looking
okay.
through.
I must have done that.
I don't see anything changed.
Okay, I must have hit something.
Until you hit save, it won't accept it anyways.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm trying to see is how to link it to... the thing is what this is. And this is an index. So let's see if I can index. Can I add an index? That would make it really... I can. Look at that. So my new index will be Cyber Symbiosis. It's only because it's what I'm looking at. And then if I can take this one, I can drop it. Bam. This is what we were trying to do before. And then...
What are you doing exactly?
Well, give me a second, and then I'll save it, and then you can see what I'm doing. But what I'm doing is creating an index for Cyber Symbiosis to give you one URL to link to and one URL on the top, that's the important thing.
I'm not following you.
Under main navigation, instead of when I click to the plus sign to add something, instead of adding a page, I'm adding an index. And then under that index, I am linking all of your Cyber Symbiosis chapters.
Oh, okay. But that doesn't change the name I've given them, right?
No, it's not changing that at all.
Okay.
And then I'm going to save and see what happens. Because I can change it.
Because I think I see the change in progress. Maybe not. We'll see.
Well, hold on. So, Cyber Symbiosis. All right, so now I have not done anything to my top link, which is the important thing.
Yeah.
Except, what is going on with this tab here? Oh, because you created... Okay, so those are menu options, which is fine.
Well, what I did was I created a new graphic that I inserted and made it into a clickable link.
Okay.
Because it will not allow you to put a button in on a gallery for some reason.
So, Cyber Symbiosis. Sorry, I'm looking at something.
There's another thing that frustrated me that I'd like to figure out is that the pages cannot generate a 2-page spread.
That is, the problem that we're looking at with that is, what it is it takes all the pictures and then puts them into one set. I want to call it a denominator because that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then it uses that denominator to say what the size of things should be. So when you go out of one page and go into 2 pages, you create something that the denominator doesn't know how to do, and it changes the shape.
Right. Well, I tried to enlarge the picture, and it's limited. It's basically 8.5 by 11 is the biggest aspect ratio it can have.